Hello, BookTube, and welcome back to the library tour of Doom. This is a tour through all of my books, book by book, everything I have on my shelves, everything I have on my tablets and Kindles, everything I ever have had and don't have anymore, going through the book journals back and forth. We're going book by book, so it's going to take a long time, but I'm hoping that it's helping you with your TBRs. I'm hoping that things are cropping up that you find interesting. And today we're doing a big gem of a thing. This is the Landmark Julius Caesar. This is edited and also translated by Kurt Raaflaub, and it consists of translations of everything that Julius Caesar wrote or put his Ponzi stupid name to, as well as a great introduction, an overview of Julius Caesar, his life, his times, his legacy, and also tons of appendices. Historical essays on every subject connected with Caesar under the sun. It's an amazing production. In my opinion, the most impressive of the Landmark series. The Landmark series was created by, who created the series? Robert Strassler. And there was the Landmark Herodotus, the Landmark Thucydides, the Landmark Xenophon, the Landmark, do we have a list here? Xenophon's Hellenica, but also the Landmark Arrian. These are great books. The landmark in the title refers to the fact that when it was Herodotus who was the kickoff volume, the gem of the whole thing was detailed maps that run throughout the book. And with Herodotus, that really helped. And that has stayed true. That is a hallmark of this whole series, is that you get extremely detailed maps of everything. Not just the bland locations, but maps that show motion, that show... Oh, I don't like Caesar either. That show... I shouldn't do that, should I? Because that's what you want to see. Here, let's angle things so that we can get both in the picture. The maps are the glory of these things, but they have grown since then to include all kinds of artwork. You get coins for Jason Harrigan. You get monuments and pictures of present-day locales. Trajan's Column and things like it will appear all over the place. But the glory that has resulted, that has grown since then, is all of the written stuff. And I think there's a real good reason why this book is the Landmark Julius Caesar instead of the Landmark Julius Caesar's Gallic War, for instance, or something like that. This is all of Caesar's works, all the works that he put his name to. And also everything else there is to know about him. It is, to a much greater extent than the other volumes in the Landmark series, it really is the book to have on Julius Caesar, who's had no shortage of great biographies. But those great biographies, for instance, or great military studies, have mentioned his works, quoted from his works, but not studied them, much less translated them. This is the whole of it, the whole of what was written under the pen name of this stupid figure in ancient history, who largely couldn't write his own name on a check. This is not only all of his stupid, self-aggrandizing, lying works, it's also tons and tons of the best historical analysis of both those works and his time, the stuff that isn't covered in the works. So it really is a necessary volume to have about Julius Caesar, in a way even more necessary than any of the great biographies or military studies. This starts off with a bust of what Julius Caesar wished he looked like. He didn't look like that, except for the Ponzi stupid mouth. There's nothing about this that's accurate, especially the nose. But then it goes on from there to talk about his stupid Ponzi military victories. Such a great figure at blowing up his own reputation. Yeah, for taking two well-armed, well-oiled, well-experienced Roman legions into the field to pick off blue-painted picks in the field. Now that takes a lot of skill to do, with them just standing there chanting to their ancestors while you line up your ballista. Yeah, that makes you a real military genius. And sometimes in the Alexandrian War, for instance, but in all sorts of other stuff that Julius Caesar slapped his name on, even his own accounts of his own military endeavors make it impossible to avoid the conclusion that any junior staff officer would have staved off the disasters that regularly happen to this guy. And yet he is considered a military genius. absolutely considered, just offhandedly considered a military genius, which is a perfect example of a friend of mine used to say when we were in our cups here in this room. We used to say, not in this room, but in, you know what I mean, the equivalent of this room half a century ago, where I would say, yeah, the Julius Caesar's career is a perfect example of the victors writing the history books. And my friend used to correct. My friend was a classicist, and he used to say, it's a perfect example of the winners having the history books written for them, because they're too busy doing other things, like making money or losing money. Just horrible figure. An odious, poncy, stupid figure, the arch traitor, the ultimate traitor in Roman history, the man who was more willing than any of his predecessors to say, if Rome isn't the way I like it, I will not adapt to Rome. I will break Rome and remake it the way I like it. And I don't care how many people die in the process. I don't care if literally the gutters in between the big rocks on the Appian Way are literally running with blood. So not just blood standing there, but so much blood that it's running along those steps, that it's like somebody had let loose a river in between the big paving stones of the Appian Way. I don't care. The Tiber actually choked with bodies. I don't care. Small price to pay. Rome wasn't the way I liked it, and I want it to be the way I like it. One of the first things I want it to do is be synonymous with me. It has to be an extension of me, Gaius Julius Caesar. It has to be an extension of me. That's one of the first things that I want, is for it to be me. So you're living in Rome, you're living, right around the corner from the street of booksellers, the Suburra. Well, no, you're living in Julius Caesar. You're living in me. And you're living here by my sufferance. You're not free. There's a lord here. You might have a senate, you might have, popular assemblies, but I run the show. They're just window dressing. They're what I give you in order not to revolt. But the whole thing is me. That's change number one that I want. And then there'll be a whole bunch of others, but that's the one that I start with. This is a pattern that has been repeated. It was repeated 1,000 times before Julius Caesar did it to a perfectly healthy Roman Republic. And it's been repeated endless times after that. There was just recently in this country, the United States, an attempt by someone to do that exact same thing. This country isn't exactly the way I want it. I want to remake it as mine. I want it to be mine. And in order to do that, people are going to have to die. But that's okay, because I want it to be mine. It's me. You don't seem to understand. I found this big 350 million popular complex country, but it's not exactly the way I like it. So I'm going to break it. I'm going to break every part of it. And one of the side effects of breaking every part of it is that a lot of people will die. One of the longer side effects is that everyone who lives will be a slave of mine. I'm sorry about that, but it's either that or I adapt to the world around me, and I don't want to do that. Obviously, I don't want to do that. So no, I'm gonna break it. I'm gonna kill lots of people, enslave lots more people, and then once it's me, once an extension of me, then I'll talk about what a heavy burden it is. Once again, as I've said many times, it makes you wish there were a hell for these people to roast in. One way or another, it doesn't detract from their importance as historical figures. And there aren't many historical figures more important than Julius Caesar. And there have been oceans written about him. Just oceans written about him. I don't think we have any new Julius Caesar biographies coming out this year. There haven't been some in quite some time. Adrian Goldsworthy's, I think, was the last big one. Which is a long time to go. Once upon a time, that would not have happened. In the Victorian era, for instance, there would never be... How long has it been since that book? 20 years? Once upon a time, there would not have been as long a time. People loved studying Julius Caesar in a time of the world's greatest empire. Probably that's not a coincidence. But one way or another, it's a little surprising to me that I don't think there are any major studies of Julius Caesar coming out in 2021 or 2022. And no, as far as I know, no new translations. This is a new translation of everything that he slapped his name on, that terrified subordinates wrote while he was busy screwing their wives. And these translations by, what's his name again? Kurt Raaflaub, are really good. They're really good. Julius Caesar is renowned for readability anyway. His prose was designed to be read by very unpracticed readers. It was designed to be promulgated in Rome. These things were reports sent back to the Senate, not to inform the Senate, but to inform the people of Rome of what a superhero Julius Caesar was and how they should really love him. And so they had to be fairly simple. They had to be fairly simple Latin, which is why when you are learning Latin for the last 2,000 years, you will be handed some of this propaganda to read. ostensibly on your teacher's advice, because it is simple. It is relatively clear, straightforward Latin. So it'll help you to learn. You're actually reading something that has Julius Caesar's name on it, even though you've only been reading Latin for, what, 6 months. That's very encouraging to students. They like that very much. But along the way, while you're doing that, you're also imbibing this myth that has been promulgated for 2,000 years. Julius Caesar created his own myth, and we are still repeating it today. Even though a great many of the facts on the ground in his own accounts belie that myth. One way or another, we're not here to discuss this stupid evil figure from history. Instead, we're here in the Library Tour of Doom to talk about this particular book, which is neither stupid nor evil. This is a great book to have. Much as I love Herodotus, and much as I was grateful for the attention that the Landmark series gave to Arrian. Arrian is a historian who's not well enough known. I was overjoyed that they gave him a great, big, wonderfully generous volume of his own. I was overjoyed at that. I still say this is the most important Landmark volume that's come out. Now, the Landmark volume naturally raises all sorts of hopes in me. I would dearly, this is a big book. I don't know if you can tell. This is bigger. It's wider than a normal mass market and taller. And I think about, in this form factor, something twice as thick. I think about a Landmark Livy. That's all of Livy that we have left, the whole of it. These are big, thick pages, but you can see you could easily make these double column pages. The same real estate could easily be made double columns with these as footnotes at the bottom. And if you did that in a volume maybe a third wider than this, I think you could fit all of Livy, even with maps and appendices and whatnot. And I would love a Landmark Livy. Oh my, would I ever. I'd also love a Landmark Plutarch. So I'm hoping the series keeps going. I don't know that it can possibly have a readership big enough to warrant what must be enormous production costs to make these things. But you never know. Who knows how publishers do their financing? Maybe Stephen King is underwriting it. One way or another, I'm hoping for other Landmark volumes, and there'll be other Landmark volumes in this Library Tour of Doom, of course. We will get to all of them in due time. I have had all of them. I don't know how many of them I have right now, but we're doing all the books, not just the ones I have right now. But I couldn't let this go by. This is the strongest possible recommend. Not out of any affection for Gaius Julius Caesar or for any of his poxy, stupid family, but for the volume itself. Because it's not just the translations of his works, although they are great and they are heavily footnoted. It's also the introductory material, the appendices, the footnotes, everything in here is just, it's the whole world of Julius Caesar in one volume. So it's invaluable, just invaluable. So there you go. That is the Library Tour of Doom for today. I don't think any of you were paying attention. You were paying attention to the bean instead. Hey, baby. How you doing? But anyway, we're going to go on a little WALK. I don't know why I spell it out, because she can spell. She knows perfectly well what we're going to do. So it's a beautiful, beautiful day. It's not hot. So I'm not going to have to worry about her. There's no hint of rain or wind or anything like that. It's a day made for gentle walking outside. So we're gonna do that. But I will be back. We will make other videos. So I will see you then. You want to say goodbye, baby? Oh. I'll see you soon, book 2.